Okay, guys, I've been talking about doing a daily driver review of a Kirby Heritage 2 and a Kirby G Series for daily use from somebody on a budget. Pick them up off Marketplace, find something cheap. I've daily used my Heritage 2 for a month, and I daily used my G3 that's been heavily modified for almost 5 months. My personal preference is going to be the Heritage 2. You can find them all day long on Marketplace between 20 and 50 bucks. I found mine on eBay. It had been reconditioned in 2017. Picked it up for 200 bucks with some attachments and an owner's manual. If you find one for 30 bucks, get it. Make sure that the fan is in good shape. If it's got the gray fan, change it. It's not hard to do. Check to make sure the carbon brushes are in good shape. I have converted my Heritage 2 over to a newer style Avalier bag system. It's not overly complicated, but it can be a pain in the neck to do. I still have my G3. I also have a G7 that I gave to my mother. And I have my Heritage. I had an Avalier 2 that I stripped for parts for the G3. That being said, the G3 is nowhere near stock. It is a hybrid of a G3 and an Avalier 2. Now, I have actually been cleaning my house today, so I have my Heritage 2 set up in attachment mode right now. And there's my Heritage 2. I have the Heritage 2 attachments, but some need repairs, so I just used a G series attachment set for it with a Heritage 2 hose. On the other hand, here's my G3. The list of things that are done to the G3 is an Avalier mini emptor and fill tube for the back, an Avalier power cord. The upper case is Avalier, the tech drive is Avalier, the handle pivot is Avalier. The power head is Avalier with a G7 brush roll in it. Works wonderful. But for the sake of ease of maintenance, and honestly it is lighter weight and does just as good, for me it's a Heritage all day long. I have had that G3. I found it for $40 on Marketplace. The older Kirby's are just as good all the way up until, I believe, from a Heritage 2 all the way to an Avalier. They did not make anything better than a Heritage up until they made the Avalier. Your best bet would be get a G series. If that's what you want the self-propelled. Do the Avalier upgrades on it. They're not hard to do. I snagged an Avalier off of eBay for $100 that I used for parts. My Heritage, on the other hand, I'm in that one total for, I think, $200 and some change. And that's with buying 2 vacuums to strip for parts. They're easy to disassemble, easy to build. For a daily driver, a Heritage or an early G series is the way to go. The G3 and the early G4 had a 700 watt motor. G4 to the Avalier had a 635. The only changes were the mini emptor. As far as performance goes, they changed the mini emptors several times to up the airflow. And the power head was changed with a better brush roll after, I think, G6 or G7. If you look at Kirby enthusiast videos, he explains a lot of the maintenance, a lot of the upkeep and care on them. They are worth every penny of what you pay for them from Marketplace up until new. If you get a used one because you are on a budget, much like me, most of the parts you can get off eBay or straight from Kirby if it's a power cord or a brush roll. With the mini emptors I needed to upgrade my G3 and my G7 to the Avalier specs, $30 a piece with new bag tubes. Sorry if this video is a little rough and it's a little fast. I'm doing it as I'm cleaning. My Heritage 2 needs a brush roll and a power cord because the brush roll is getting worn and so is the power cord. $100 from Kirby all day long, not even. I replaced the carbon brushes in it The fan is still in good shape, so I didn't feel the need to replace it. It had been refurbed in 17. I've seen several reviews of somebody that doesn't like Kirby's, that's a vacuum repairman, swears by Bagless, swears by Dyson, Dirt Devil, other brands that I've had, and they're not as good. I will take a Kirby all day long. I have severe allergies. I have not had one allergen issue since buying my Kirby's. If you are looking for a decent budget vacuum, an eBay Kirby or a marketplace Kirby is the way to go. I am extremely biased. I have a small collection of them that I'm adding to every day. I've got my eye on a Classic 3 and a Tradition that I'm going to convert over to the paper bags from Shakeout. I like a Shakeout bag, but they're a pain in the neck whenever you're in a hurry and just want to switch the bag and keep cleaning. But I will show you some differences between the Heritage and the G3. Now, with both vacuums sitting side by side, there are some obvious differences. The brush rolls, I want to say, are about the same width. But the G3 was a little bit shorter. As far as the bag went, the overall vacuum is about the same height. The cord length is the same. The Heritage 2 is actually a little bit lighter. I have found for my use that they both work equally well. The bags in both of them are easy to change. The mini emptor on the Heritage 2 is somewhat translucent. The G3 has a locking handle pivot from an Avalier. But either one of these machines, from a Heritage to a Legend to an early G series, are honestly great for daily use. The only thing you have to worry about is the bags and the belts. I have had no issues with either machine. I bought the Heritage as a project that I had not intended on keeping, and it's staying around. It's an excellent vacuum. The belt lifters are essentially the same. The mini emptors are in different spots. That's about the only difference between the two. I will actually unhook the bags and show the differences in the bag hooks also. Looking at the Heritage 2, it has a metal hook on the back of the handle where it slots in. Looking at the G series, it is a plastic clip on the handle. Now, as far as durability goes, I will take the hook. Parts from a G series will not interchange with a Heritage series. I believe parts from a Classic 3, Tradition, early Heritage 1, and then Heritage 2 to Legend 2 interchange with a Heritage series. Anything from Generation 3 to current interchanges. I used a mix of Avalier parts and G series parts on my G3. It's a Frankenstein. But looking at the simplicity of the power, I won't push the button because I have the Heritage plugged in right now. It is a very, very simple system. The toe touch controls are the same between the two. Power buttons in the same spot. The G3, any G series really, has the self-propelled switch in the back, which I don't use because my self-propelled belt broke and I haven't fixed it yet. The toe touch control is in the same side. You have on the top of the brush roll an indicator light on both to show you that it's working. I don't recall offhand what the power output on the Heritage 2 is. I know the G series has a 700 watt motor up until mid G4 when they went to a 635 watt motor. But overall, any of these you can get off Marketplace are good finds. Just check the fans if there's any chips. I believe a fan for a G series is $17. Same thing with a Heritage. The Heritage is easier to change. It's less complicated. The G series is a little more in-depth. But as I've said, Kirby Enthusiast has several videos on how to change them. But as I have said, out of all the vacuums I've owned in the last 5 years, I've had one issue out of the G series, and it was a handle pivot that the rivet snapped on from age. Heritage has not given me any issues. It's a standard, basically a pin assembly that was used on older Kirby's that doesn't wear out. But from a user standpoint, they are both extremely user-friendly. Just pay attention to what you're doing and what you're getting. It is not the machine's fault if it was improperly used. I would match these up against a brand new Dyson any day of the week. I actually converted my mom over from a Dyson user to a Kirby user because I ran it side by side with her Dyson and it picked up much more. That is all I have for this video. I will do more in-depth videos of each machine later and any future machines that I get.